So the rumors have been swirling. Would Blake Lively attend the Super Bowl with her longtime bestie Taylor Swift as she has in past years? Well, we all know she didn't attend. And you gotta say, why? Why not this year, Blake? Could it be that Blake has a credibility issue that Taylor doesn't want to get anywhere near? Let's talk about credibility and how important it is and how it is vital to this lawsuit and counter lawsuit filed by Blake Lively and counter-filed by Justin Baldoni. It's all coming up right now on Judge Liz. So as a judge, one of the most important roles that you play, that I played, is determining credibility and assessing people, observing people, and determining, is this person credible or not? That is one of the biggest things that you do as a judge. And I used to tell people, my job is I am a paid, trained observer. I observe people all day long and make credibility determinations. Now, this isn't something that only a judge can do. Let me explain this how I used to explain to my juries. Credibility is something that everybody determines every day in your lives. And let me give you an example. Let's say you're at the grocery store and there's one person ahead of you and you're waiting in line. If this person is talking down to the cashier, if this person is rude, if this person is grabbing their child really hard, and you're watching and you may not even be realizing this, but you get back to your car and you go, God, that guy was a jerk. Well, you were making a credibility determination because you're watching and you're observing. I'll give you another example. I was driving past a church and it was around 8 o'clock in the morning and there was a very wealthy, prominent member of the community. I see him, when no one else is watching, walk up to a homeless guy, hand him money. Not only did he hand him money, but he embraced him. He gave him a big hug. And I thought to myself, you know, this guy who is wealthy, who's all dressed up for work, was kind enough not just to give this guy money, but to give him a hug. To me, that is the ultimate credibility. That guy went from I don't really have an opinion about his credibility to he's at the top of the list. He has the utmost credibility because things that people do when they think no one else is watching speaks volumes as to a person, who they are, and whether or not they're credible. Let's get into the Blake Lively case because I have a lot to say about Blake Lively's credibility. We've heard now about this New York Times article that has all of the sordid details and text messages, albeit edited text messages, that the New York Times published just 2 days after Blake Lively filed her complaint. You have to wonder, when did the New York Times accumulate the information that they had in their article describing this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation in perfect detail? Well, there's metadata now that links the text messages sent by Blake Lively's team to the New York Times, which show when she sent the information, and it was weeks before the article came out. So here's a question of credibility determining, okay? You are wronged in the workplace. Somebody has sexually harassed you. Somebody has committed sexual misconduct, talked about disgusting things in front of you that you don't want to hear about, talked about, boys' room, locker room talk in front of you. And you've had to endure this throughout the course of your movie or months, okay? And you're just a regular person. And you've been wronged and you do not want this to happen again, not only to you, but I would hope that Blake Lively is filing this because she doesn't want it to happen to other women in the future. Because that's the reason people file lawsuits, right? To right wrong behavior. So Blake Lively goes and first and foremost, she makes this power play, this orchestrated power play to the New York Times to get ahead of this. I ask you this, what average victim would do that? Would the average woman in the workplace who has been sexually harassed, who's had sexual misconduct done against her, against her will, been exposed to inappropriate comments over months and months, like Blake Lively alleges she has in the movie, would the average person go to the media? No. The average person is going to go to the court, is going to file a complaint, is going to file a lawsuit. The average person is not going to go to the New York the New York Times and try to get ahead of it and create a media frenzy so that she can control the narrative, so that she can be the number one person that's talked about when this movie comes out. No, the average woman who's wronged just wants to be made whole. doesn't want to make this a power play, to make this into a media thing that makes her more popular. I just think Blake Lively's reasoning for what she did, when she did it, is extremely questionable. And I think if you compare her to any other victim in a similar circumstance, you're going to say to yourself, what she did, that's not right. And that's not how an ordinary woman in similar circumstances would have handled this. If you can imagine in this case, although we know that there is physical evidence, that there is, text messages and so on and so forth, if you can imagine that this lawsuit would rely solely on the credibility of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. What are they saying? How are they acting? Do they appear to have some motive? Is there some financial gain involved? Is there some fame involved? Is there fortune involved? Is there ego involved? These are all things that are going to play to the person's credibility and ultimately be judged by a judge and or a jury when this case goes to trial. And the question boils down to this: is Blake Lively credible? Come back tomorrow for part 2. I have a lot more to say about Blake Lively's credibility, including analyzing behind-the-scenes video released by Justin Baldoni's legal team.